So thank you. What a beautiful puja. My heart is so full seeing how beautifully both you, Rashmi and Sonali, all performed the puja. And may there be blessings for all for Mahashivaratri. I thought I will talk about what is the meaning of surrender by telling you the story of the ego. So once upon a time, there lived the ego, the ahankara. It had been fed a lot since childhood. Hence, it used the words I, me and myself a lot. There was not much room for anyone else. Wherever the ego went, I, me and myself went along. The ego would claim a lot of things that did not belong to it. Why? Because it needed to feel special. At the same time, the ego was fragile and would get hurt and angry very easily. If anyone did not pay enough attention, it would start yelling and shouting. If it was not given credit, it would sulk or badmouth others. If the ego was praised, of course, it would puff up with pride. So the ego was fed up and wanted a solution from this yo-yo of moodiness. And then one day, the word mirror of Vedanta was shown to it. Expecting to be praised, the ego asked, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the greatest of them all?" And the mirror said, "The one who knows oneself to be Satyam, the absolute reality." "That must be me," the ego said. The mirror said, "No, to know yourself as Satyam, you have to learn the meaning of surrender." So now, as you can imagine, the ego started squirming. You know, that's why I've just kept away from all this spiritual stuff. I am not going to surrender to anyone, including God. First of all, I don't know who God really is. And why should I just surrender the only ego that I have to God? As it is, I have very few things. If I surrender it to the Lord, what will I get in return? I am told everything. I don't believe it. So the mirror asked, as the ego, did you create your body? No, neither your parents. They were just a nimitta, an instrument. The body and the way it works was given to you by Bhagavan. As an ego, did you create your mind and its ways of thinking? No, that was also given to you by Bhagavan. As an ego, did you invent the people around you and the many situations that you are in? No, it is pervaded by the law of karma, that is Bhagavan. As the ego, did you create all the disciplines of knowledge? No, you just discovered some things that were there, and of course we are all discovering other disciplines. So if you have not created or invented any of these, then how can you claim these to be yours? Ego is very, very uncomfortable and really squirming. So then feebly the ego says, "But I made the most of my body, mind and the many situations I was in. You don't know what a tough life I have led. I am self-made. I think you are jealous of me. You cannot digest my success." And the mirror of Vedanta said, "Why should I be jealous of you? In fact, I am very proud of you. All your accomplishments have made you strong, so strong that you can look at the reality of yourself and maybe understand what surrender is all about. So the ego started smiling and relaxing. Really? You think I did well? Of course, the mirror said. You can surrender only that which belongs to you. What you call your ego does not belong to you. If you are wearing a coat, you can surrender the coat. But if you surrender to Bhagavan, then there is no one left. Now the ego is puzzled. Are you making fun of me? The mirror says, no, I'm just pointing out that surrender is an attitude that is born of the understanding that all that you are, all that you have is given to you by Bhagavan. Can you see this? The I that wants to surrender or does not want to surrender is the ahankara, the ego. You are not an independent entity as the ego. You may be the combination of karta, bhokta, the doer and the experiencer, which are relational identities. They are there sometimes they're not there, but all of it depends on the Atma that you really are. So who are you to surrender anything? Even if you as the ego attempt to surrender, you will pout with a selfie and say, hey, look at me, I have surrendered to Bhagavan. The ego will still consider itself as separate from Bhagavan. So you see, surrender is born of a vision, seeing Ishvara as Karmadhyakshaha, the one who presides over all karmas, is surrender. Seeing Ishvara as Karma Phala Data, the giver of the fruits of action, is surrender. Seeing that all the laws of karma are pervaded by Ishvara is surrender. Seeing that you are a contributor of your actions and not the controller of the results is surrender. Dropping the resistance to people and situations is surrender. Receiving all situations in your life as prasada. So sweet, sour, salty, bitter, etc. is surrender. Seeing that at best you are a trustee of this body, mind, sense complex, which is of course left behind at death, is surrender. Seeing that the ego is just a dependent idea is surrender. So then the surrender of the ego is really in terms of knowledge and negation. So negation by knowledge really occurs when the object continues to be there, but its reality is taken away. So for example, you can enjoy the blue sky and at the same time know that the sky is not really blue. Surrender is knowing that the ego has no independent existence. In fact, the ego depends on I, the Atma, which of course is not the ego. So now the ego is smiling from cheek to cheek. So you as the ego, the mirror says, has now tasted the sweetness of surrender. And now you can have only gratitude. You can allow yourself to be an instrument of change and hence do the karma that needs to be done. Seeing the world objectively without subjective projections of raga dvesha is to have an awareness of Ishvara. Living your whole life with an awareness of Ishvara is true surrender. Of course, you will still continue as the ahankara, but the ahankara is just a dress because you know yourself as the Atma. Ahankara is a dress and it's a really sophisticated body suit with blood and tissues and bones and muscles and so on, which we wear to function in the world. But actually, ego, you are the limitless conscious being that expresses itself through the medium of a limited body-mind. So there might be the experience of limitation, but no limitation of time or place can really limit you. So as your understanding grows, you will see that you and Ishvara were never separate. You can stop identifying as the pot space with the pot and claim the knowledge that you are that all-pervading space. So now if you were to ask me, mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the greatest of them all, I would say you, because you have understood the meaning of surrender. You choose to bless yourself with Atma Vichara, self-inquiry in the light of the Shastra, and then in time you can laugh at the story of your own ego and also share it with others. So the Vedanta mirror and the ego had a good laugh. End of story. Om Tat Sat.